Air Canada flight attendants hold silent protests at 4 major airports today, including Pearson. We're live hearing from both sides of the dispute as a potential strike at the country's biggest airline inches closer.
Now we'll take you to cottage country this hour, where fire crews are tackling out of control wildfires there. We have more on the message to cottage owners coming up.
And that controversial speed camera on Parkside Drive, well, it's back after being chopped down 6 times. And this time, officials, including Toronto police, are hoping it'll stay that way.
Plus, another day, another heat warning in the GTHA. We have more tonight on this muggier than usual summer.
You're watching Live at 5.
Hey there, I'm Phil Perkins.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks so much for joining us. And welcome to Live at 5. Flight attendants for the country's biggest airline held a day of action at airports across the country today. It comes ahead of a looming strike deadline, which could bring chaos and uncertainty in the midst of peak travel season.
Yeah, let's go live to CP24's Cedra Liu at Pearson Airport, Terminal 1. We heard about some of the situations financially these airline attendants are dealing with, and it's wild.
That's right, Phil and Lena. A lot of the air flight attendants we spoke to today say they are not getting paid enough and that they are living below the poverty wage. And that has been the sticking points when it comes to negotiations between CUPE, the union representing Air Canada flight attendants, and Air Canada. It is crunch time right now when it comes to reaching a deal. If a deal is not reached, flight attendants could walk off the job as early as Saturday, and that would cause chaos as Air Canada is the country's largest airline. And today, across the country at 4 major airports, Toronto here, Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary, Air Canada flight attendants held a day of action, silent protests. At Pearson Airport, they came in by the busloads. Around 500 flight attendants in uniform stood outside holding signs talking about these unpaid wages. They're saying that they are working for hours without getting paid, doing things such as deplaning, helping passengers load their baggage, safety checks, all doing this work for free. That is because the common practice right now is that flight attendants only get paid for when the plane is actually in the air. They don't get paid for the duties they do before and after the flight takes off. They're saying that really adds up to hundreds of hours of unpaid labor a year, and now they're making wages they say is unsustainable in big cities like Toronto. Take a listen to one flight attendant we spoke to earlier.
We had a food bank set up in our local office because we have flight attendants that can't afford to eat. We have flight attendants living in multiple rooms in bunk beds because they can't afford. We have flight attendants who are fabulous at their job, and it could potentially be a breaking point between them choosing, do I stay in a career I love, or do I allow myself to be able to eat? That shouldn't be the case. We're safety professionals first and foremost. We should be compensated properly and fairly for the work that we do. So I'm very proud of everybody that is here.
Over 99% of members with CUPE voted in favor of a strike, but the glimmer of hope here is that CUPE and Air Canada are both talking right now. Bargaining negotiations are underway, and both sides have said they would like to avoid a strike. We got a statement from Air Canada. We'll read you part of that. They say, in regards to the talk themselves, Air Canada remains at the bargaining table and is focused on achieving a negotiated settlement with CUPE, one that recognizes the contributions of its flight attendants by making them the best compensated in the country, and that also supports the competitiveness and long-term growth of the company. As for the protests today, Air Canada says this didn't cause any interruptions when it comes to flights. Travelers were able to get in and out as usual. However, if a deal is not reached soon, flight attendants could legally walk off the job this Saturday. And Lena and Phil, that would cause chaos when it comes to travel, especially during a peak summer season.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of families trying to get that last vacation right before school starts.
For sure. And that is anxiety nobody needs, especially not parents who are traveling with their kiddos, as you said, right before school starts. Sijia Liu reporting live from the airport. Sijia, thanks so much.
All right, let's check in on your commute before you head out on the road. Traffic specialist Adjotia Yabwa letting you know which route to take.
Yeah, you know, I can tell you what routes to avoid, especially if you're on the 401 trying to get out of Milton, in particular through James Snow Parkway, Phil. We have this pretty serious collision. Two vehicles involved. One looks like it's on top of the other. So this is the eastbound 401 in the express past James Snow Parkway. You have the left lane of the HOV lane blocked. If you're in the express, only the right lane getting by. The good news, where they split the collectors and the express do, stick with the collectors just to bypass the situation. It is quickly backing up that drive from well before James Snow Parkway. The northbound 427 long-standing problems. Looks like they're about to clear. This is the northbound 427 north of Rathburn. Transfer lanes have been closed for the last little bit following a collision. That's in the process of clearing. And if you're traveling towards the Gardner westbound, still remains busy exiting the downtown core from Jarvis in sections pretty much all the way out to past Park Lawn. Outside of camera view on northbound 400 up at Teston, we have the HOV lane blocked at the stall. Also problems on the northbound 400 up at Innisfil Beach Road. Crews dealing with a collision that is blocking a live lane. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Well, fire crews remain on the scene of a house fire in Oshawa this hour.
Yeah, it happened at a home on Nassau Street, just south of John Street. Windows can be seen being knocked out, along with some fire damage on the inside of the home. No injuries have been reported. The cause of the fire getting looked at right now. Crews remain on scene, monitoring for hotspots.
Speaking of hotspots, a large wildfire burning out of control in cottage country. Dozens of firefighters from across Kawartha Lakes, they're trying to prevent the flames from spreading further.
Yeah, let's bring in CP24's Melissa Duggan in the newsroom. The latest on this firefight. A lot of people have cottages up there. It's not a long drive from the GTA.
Yeah, definitely. So people keeping an eye on this area right now. You mentioned there's that one major fire that's burning. It's in the Burnt River area, measuring some 27 hectares. But right now, across the Halliburton Fire Management Area, which does include Kawartha Lakes, there are 3 wildfires burning out of control, 2 others that have been deemed under control at this time. But conditions in this area are hot. They are dry. There is a heat warning that is in effect, and there's no significant rainfall in the forecast. A chance of showers for tomorrow and for Wednesday, but nothing major. You know, we were talking with authorities in the area over the weekend as well, saying they haven't received any significant rainfall in some 6 weeks. And they are certainly feeling it. And there are 7 crews that have been deployed to the area to tackle the flames. We know that water bombers have been used as well. A lot of warnings going out to the public. If you happen to be near a body of water, see one of those water bombers in the area, you want to stick to the shoreline. You don't want to impede those firefighting efforts that are underway because they really want to tackle these flames at the moment. I want to get you the latest that we're hearing on the status of that major fire. Again, the Burnt River area from the mayor of Kawartha Lakes, Doug Elmsley. Here's what he has to say.
The report I had from our own fire service was they thought they were making good progress. But as I say, it is not a fire that is under control. It's still in a dangerous place. And the winds, of course, can switch and change. And so it's a very fluid situation.
Here's an update we're getting from the OPP in the area. This coming in this afternoon, saying the city of Kawartha Lakes OPP were alerted to a grass fire in Kirkfield by smoke. Some road closures in the area, farmers taking some steps as well to make sure that their animals are safe. They're asking people to avoid the area. And that's the advice for anyone who might have cottages in the area. If you don't have to go to these affected zones, don't go there. No evacuation orders are in place. I should mention that there are some road closures. But, you know, even looking closer to home right now, we're seeing more fire bans take effect. There is a total fire ban that's in place in Kawartha Lakes. But closer to where we are here, Aurora, Newmarket, Oakville, just this afternoon, all 3 of those areas declaring a fire ban because they, too, dealing with hot, dry conditions right now. Phil and Lena, back to you.
All right, Melissa Duggan in the newsroom. Thank you very much for keeping us updated on that. And with more on the climate, a heat warning remains in effect for Toronto and other parts of southern Ontario.
Yeah, the humidity making it feel closer to 40, feeling like 39 right now. The agency expects a cooler air mass to arrive in many parts of the province tomorrow night, but it is warning these hot, humid, hazy conditions may continue into Wednesday. Environment Canada meteorologist Stephen Flisfetter says even when the extreme heat breaks, what little relief we get won't last long.
I would call it a relative break from the heat. We're still expecting temperatures to remain in at least the high 20s beyond Wednesday, and then a warmer air mass making its return for the weekend. So it's a relative cool down for Thursday, Friday, but that's not to say that it won't be appreciated.
Environment Canada is also warning that hot, humid air could also cause the air quality to deteriorate and is urging people to take steps to protect their own health.
Just be careful. 5:10, 31 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
When we come back, wait times for 911 callers in the city are down significantly. We'll take a look at some new numbers.
Welcome back. Police are searching for suspects after 2 people were stabbed during a robbery in Scarborough.
It happened in the Finch and Morningside area around 11 o'clock last night. People say 2 men, an 18-year-old and a 38-year-old, were approached by a group of 6 or 7 people who attempted to rob them. The victims were taken to hospital with serious non-life-threatening injuries. The suspects were last seen running eastbound on Finch. Police are asking anyone with video or any security camera footage to get in touch with authorities.
Police are investigating after a vehicle crashed into a downtown business just days after it was a target of a suspected arson.
Now, a white SUV backed into the Magic Mushroom dispensary on Yonge near Wellesley around 4:30 this morning. Police say the driver ran away. Just last Wednesday, there was a small fire at the business, and police say that is being treated as an arson.
Well, new numbers from the city show wait times for 911 callers are down significantly.
Yeah, a large amount. Officials say last month the average 911 wait time was 28 seconds. That is down from 90 seconds a year ago. The goal is to get that number down to 15 seconds. In an effort to make that happen, the city is adding more 911 operators. 60 have been hired so far this year. Mayor Olivia Chow says another 30 will be hired by the end of this year. The city is also looking at new technology to help reduce wait times.
Last year, 27% of the 911 calls were pocket dials and accidental. So there's now an automatic text back feature to drop calls to help our call center operators to keep focus on the emergency, not these pocket dials, because it takes them time to call back. And that person may not call back or not answer. It's time wasted.
Although we continue to hire additional 911 communications operators, staffing is only part of the solution. We're also making structural and technological improvements, including prioritizing our 911 queue so emergencies get answered faster, automatically redirecting non-emergency calls.
Toronto police say their priority response time is 13 minutes. That's a 25% improvement from a year ago. The city has also approved hiring 720 new police officers.
Speaking of law enforcement, a speed camera has been reinstalled on Parkside Drive by Hard Park after it was vandalized for the 6th time in less than a year. Police also trying to determine if there's a connection to other cameras that have also been targeted.
For more on this, let's go live to CP24's Andrew Brennan. Toronto police really trying to connect the dots here because it just keeps happening, Andrew.
Yeah, and the ways it keeps happening, Lena, Phil, are pretty extensive when you talk about the vandalism. One of the cases back in December, this well, not the same camera, because again, they've replaced them, but a camera at this same location was chopped down with an axe or something similar and then dragged to the Grenadier Pond nearby and submerged in water. So whoever or whomevers have been doing this ultimately have been putting in quite a bit of effort into taking these speed cameras down. We should mention that on top of the 6 that have taken 6 incidents reported at this particular site, there have been noticeable instances of vandalism similarly, with cameras being taken from other locations or destroyed or graffitied, but not just the usual bad words or the like. having them be blacked out so that they can't actually see any of the cars going by and are rendered useless. So we did hear from police earlier on in the afternoon, and I know we just heard from the mayor talking about other things, but she also had something to say about these cameras.
This is not a joke, folks. Speed kills. There are reasons why there are speed camera there. If you're breaking the law, we're going to tag you. We are going to ask you to pay. And that is precisely why there are speed cameras in multiple places.
So if you look at the numbers, the reason why this camera is so focused on, Lena and Phil, is because of the amount of money it rakes in for the city. It has raised about $7 million in change since it was installed about 4 years ago. And up until when it was taken out of commission for, I think, the third or the fourth time, it was still, at that point, the most widely ticketing camera in the city. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It is 5:17. It's warm out. You're watching Live at 5.
Coming up, Canadians continue to cut back on travel to the U.S. We'll take a look at the latest numbers out from Stats Canada. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Live at 5. Ukraine and its European backers are seeking talks with U.S. President Donald Trump in an effort to protect their security interests ahead of his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the end of the week.
Yeah, Trump and Putin are set to meet in Alaska on Friday. In advance of the talks, NATO's chief and several European leaders agreed to virtual meetings on Wednesday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has not been invited to that summit and says he is instead coordinating a possible meeting with allies. Trump commented on his upcoming meeting with Putin at the White House today.
There'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both. So there's good and there's bad. But it's very complex because you have lines that are very uneven. And there'll be some swapping. There'll be some changes in land, and the word that they will use is, they make changes. We're going to change the lines, the battle lines. Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine.
What's Canada saying in all this? Prime Minister Carney says he spoke with President Zelensky today. The PM's office says in part that both agreed that no decisions about Ukraine's future and security can be made without Ukraine's participation.
Well, speaking of the U.S. president, Donald Trump also announcing today he is placing D.C.'s police department under federal control, citing a spike in crime rates.
This city will no longer be a sanctuary for illegal alien criminals. We will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement, and we'll deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. You'll have more police, and you'll be so happy.
Trump invoked a section of the Home Rule Act that allows a president to use the force for 30 days when special conditions of an emergency nature exist. The U.S. president claims that the nation's capital has been taken over by gangs and criminals, despite reports that crime has been falling in the area. District of Columbia's Attorney General says crime is not at an emergency level and added that after a spike in 2023, violent crime hit its lowest level in decades last year and has continued to drop.
Well, new figures show Canadians continue to cut back on travel south of the border last month.
Yeah, Stats Canada says the number of Canadian residents return trips by car from the U.S. in July fell almost 37% compared with a year ago. It is the 7th straight month of year-over-year declines. The number of Canadians returning from America by air also dropped, tumbling nearly 26%.
523, 32 degrees out there tonight. You're watching Live at 5.
Not really good at soccer? Well, you can volunteer for next year's FIFA World Cup and still be a part of the festivities. We'll tell you how to apply. Welcome back. It's another sign that summer is almost over, Lena.
It's true.
Lifeguard supervision at city beaches is being reduced by half an hour.
Yeah, this is kind of sad. Lifeguards, I'm feeling, lifeguards are now on duty from 10:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. instead of 7:30. Not like a massive difference, though. The city says the change is due to a reduction in daylight hours this time of year, and that is what makes me sad.
That's freaking me out.
City beach, and I feel it too when I get home. City beaches will be supervised until September 1st. Every minute counts, you know?
Every minute counts. Christmas trees are already on sale, I'm sure. City of Toronto is launching a new campaign to educate people about the proper use of bike lanes and other cycling rules.
Yeah, that campaign includes a variety of posters that tell cyclists not to stop in bike lanes and to make sure they are riding in the right direction. The posters also remind cyclists not to use sidewalks and that mopeds are too fast for bike lanes.
For this particular campaign, we're focused on 4 key messages that we have heard from the public last year. And those include no riding on the sidewalk unless you're 13 years and under. We want to ensure people are also not riding the wrong way when they're in the roadway. We want to make sure that mopeds are also not being used in our bike lanes and to avoid stopping in the bike lanes, whether you're a vehicle or you're another bike delivery rider or cyclist in that infrastructure.
Yeah, the city says sidewalks, bike lanes, and roads, they're shared by all of us every day, and they hope the campaign will help keep them safe for everybody.
All right, volunteer applications have opened for next year's World Cup.
City of Toronto is looking for more than 3,000 volunteers across several different areas, including fan experiences, accessibility services, media operations, maybe a place for you and me, Lena, and event logistics. Toronto is set to host 6 World Cup matches, including the Canadian men's national team. You can find out more information and apply on the City of Toronto's website or FIFA's website. The World Cup is next June.
That's going to be so fun. 5:28, 32 degrees. I know you're excited.
I'm very excited.
You're watching Live at 5.
Yep, more hot, hazy conditions as the GTA remained under a heat warning. We'll help you try to navigate this. Coming up. Air Canada flight attendants holding a silent protest at 4 major airports across Canada, including Pearson. We're live at Terminal 1, hearing from both sides of the dispute as a potential strike at the country's biggest airline inches closer.
Plus, we take you to cottage country this hour, where fire crews are tackling out-of-control wildfires. We have more on the message to cottage owners. That's coming up.
And the controversial speed camera on Parkside Drive is back with a vengeance after being chopped down 6 times. And this time, officials, including police, are hoping it'll stay that way.
And another day, another heat warning in the GTHA. We have more tonight on this muggier than usual summer. Currently feeling like 39 out there.
This Live at 5.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lena Latifat.
And I'm Phil Perkins. Thanks for joining. Well, probably you should know this by now. It's darn near close to 40 with the humidity this hour as the heat warning remains in effect for Toronto and other parts of southern Ontario.
CTV Toronto's Beth McDonnell joins us live from Woodbine Beach with more on this latest stretch of hot weather. Beth, what are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Well, I'm definitely feeling the heat. We're under another heat warning. This is our 6th heat event of the year, and we've had more than 20 days now of 30+ degree temperatures. And so what are people doing at Woodbine Beach? They are coming down to cool off, many putting their feet, sometimes getting their whole body in Lake Ontario, and many others heading to the pool to take a dip because it is so hot out. Of course, officials warning people about heat exhaustion, things to look for: headache, nausea, dizziness, and reminding people to drink plenty of water. And of course, if you're thinking about going outside, to try and plan that out for when it may be the coolest time of the day.
And you know, Beth, we've all done the hot weather story already at this point. As you mentioned, probably this is your 6th hot weather story so far this summer. Hearing from, especially parents or people with senior citizens, the ones that we have to keep an eye out for, are they, listening to some of the advice to try to stay safe, or are they just, we're going to go out there and enjoy it because it's going to be winter in just a couple months?
I think it's twofold, really. Like, I was talking to an ice cream vendor during the last heat event, and basically they were saying that actually business is slower. I think that there's a certain element of fear among people that are vulnerable, and they're just staying indoors, staying in air conditioning, or going to spots that have it to just not even be out in this at all. At the other end of it, I am meeting some older people that just say, you know what, we have winter 8 months of the year, and I love this, and I'm going to be out there. I'm putting on my big hat. I'm drinking my water. I'm going to be in the pool, and this is great. I love this. So even though it is uncomfortable for some, even dangerous for others, a lot of people are saying, I need to be out in this. It feels good.
Yeah, it's so true. There really are two groups of people, those who say, we've been waiting for this all summer. We're going to be outside no matter what. And then, of course, the other group that says this is just too uncomfortable, a little too sticky for me. CTV's Beth McDonnell, right where you want to be tonight at Woodbine Beach. Beth, thanks so much for your reporting. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, well, a lot of people tend to leave the city to go to cottage country to try to escape the heat, get that lake breeze. Well, those who live in cottage country or those who, own summer properties might want to listen up. There's a large wildfire burning out of control in the Kawartha Lakes. Dozens of firefighters there try to prevent the flames from spreading even further.
Yeah, for more on this situation, let's bring in CP24's Melissa Duggan with the latest on this fire. Melissa.
Yeah, Lena and Phil, just in the past week alone, Kawartha Lakes reporting 3 significant wildfires. The major one that is getting a lot of attention right now is in the Burnt River area, measuring some 27 hectares. So certainly the largest that we're seeing across the Halliburton fire management area, which does include Kawartha Lakes. Across that area, we're seeing 3 fires out of control at the moment, 2 others that are considered under control. Looking across the province, there are 69 wildfires currently being reported. This is according to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre. Of course, the majority of those fires are in far northwestern Ontario, but we are seeing more of them pop up in cottage country because they are seeing the same heat warnings that we're seeing here in the city. It is hot, it is dry. There's also the potential of some wind activity, and that could propel the further spread of these fires. No significant rainfall here in some 6 weeks. They need that wet weather, just a chance of some wet weather maybe tomorrow into Wednesday, but no real heavy rainfall coming, unfortunately. Instead, hot conditions is what they are seeing there. We were talking with the mayor of Kawartha Lakes, Doug Elmsley. He's pointing to the MNR. It's leading the forest fight in the heavily wooded areas in northern Kawartha Lakes, but he is breaking down some of the resources now being deployed. Have a listen.
We don't have the equipment like helicopters and water bombers to be able to fight this kind of fire. So we rely on the Ministry of Natural Resources, and they have brought in their crews from Halliburton, North Bay, and wherever else they have needed to do so in order to fight the fire. Our fire services are working with them, but we're more of a resource for them in terms of our water shuttles, so that their pumps can have water to put on the fire.
No evacuation orders in cottage country to tell you about. There are some road closures, but the message coming out of this area, if you can avoid this area, do it, because these crews need to attend to these fires while they can. And while we're hearing that they are making some progress right now, they say if this hot, dry weather does stick around, if more wind picks up, that they could be seeing a further spread and the potential for more fires being sparked as well. There is a total fire ban in Kawartha Lakes, and Lena and Phil, we were hearing later today that a fire ban also in effect in places like Aurora, in Newmarket, in Oakville. So it just really gives you a sense of the hot, tinder dry conditions that a lot of the province is dealing with right now.
That is for sure. Melissa Duggan reporting live from our newsroom tonight. Melissa, thanks so much. It's 5:37 now, 32 degrees. It's been a really, really slow drive home. For a closer look, let's check in with Adjoa and Sia Yabwa.
Yeah, Lena, still watching problems and watching all of the delays on pretty much all of the major area highways. But we'll start with issues that are happening if you're making your way out of Milton. So this is the eastbound lanes of the 401, just as you make your way past James Snow Parkway. In the Express, still that HOV, as well as that left lane blocked to this collision. If you're in the Express, just the right lane getting by. collector lanes, both lanes getting through. Only 2, but at least they're moving through the area. In terms of your delay, it looks like it's backed up from Highway 25, but smarter drivers are just getting off the highway to bypass these problems. Now, if you're on the westbound side of things, haven't spotted any issues. Been searching my cameras on the westbound 401 into Milton past James Snow. If I spot something, I'll definitely keep you in the know. Don Valley Parkway remains busy from Don Mills right on up to the 401 and still pretty slow on the Gardner westbound. Shades are a must. That sunshine also blinding the drive as you exit the downtown core. From Jarvis, the delays continue and they open up just past Park Lawn. Outside of camera view, northbound 400 up at Teston still have that ongoing stalled vehicle blocking the HOV lane. I'll send it back to you both.
All right, Adjo, thank you very much for the update. Hopefully people get home safely. Well, people want to get on flights and knowing that they're going to be operational. Flight attendants for the country's biggest airline held a day of action at airports across the country today, and that could put some of these things into question. It comes ahead of a looming strike deadline, which I mentioned could bring chaos and uncertainty in the midst of peak travel season.
Yeah, it would be terrible timing if workers did walk off the job. Let's go live to CP24's CJ Liu at Pearson, and that is exactly what both sides are trying to avoid here, a strike.
That's right, Lena and Phil. Both sides have said their goal is for a strike not to happen. But how that actually happens, the deal is what they're trying to figure out right now. It is a crucial time of negotiations between Air Canada and CUPE, which is the union that represents flight attendants with Air Canada. Today, those flight attendants held a national day of action, silent protests at 4 airports across the country: Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary. Here in Terminal 1 at Pearson Airport, flight attendants arrived by the busloads in their uniform, lining the terminal, holding signs that talked about unfair wages. And that has been the main sticking point with negotiations. These flight attendants say they are keeping passengers safe in the skies, but they are not getting paid for the work they do on the ground. That is because flight attendants are only paid when the flight is actually in the air. So everything they do before and after takeoff, such as boarding passengers, doing safety checks, all of that is unpaid work. And they're saying that is adding up to hundreds of hours a year, and they simply aren't making enough. They are describing their wages as poverty wages. Take a listen to how one flight attendant described it to us today.
We just want everyone to know that we are here to be paid fairly, just like everyone else is. We work an average of 35 hours a month unpaid. The wages have not gone up. The 25 years since I've been here, wages have gone up $2 an hour. So it's just not sustainable anymore. We just want to be paid fairly and equitably, just like everyone else, for every hour worked.
And speaking about those wages, when this lady started 25 years ago, she said she was making around $1,600 a month. Right now, the starting wage for flight attendants is around $1,900 a month. And they say that is simply not enough to live in a big city like Toronto. That is why over 99% of members with CUPE voted in favor of this strike mandate. But the glimmer of hope right now is that both sides want to avoid a strike. They are at the bargaining table this week, having those tough conversations to try to figure this out. Air Canada told us in a statement today, in part, that they are still at the bargaining table and they're focused on achieving a negotiated settlement with CUPE, one that recognizes the contributions of its flight attendants by making them the best compensated in the country, and that also supports the competitiveness and long-term growth of the company. As for this silent protest today here in Toronto and across the country, Air Canada has said there have been no flight delays related to this event and that passengers should be able to travel like normal. However, if a deal cannot be reached, that will be a different story. This demonstration could turn into an actual strike, Lena and Phil, and that could happen as early as Saturday, which would be terrible timing for all those families trying to get in some vacation time before the end of the summer break.
Yeah, anybody flying Air Canada in the next couple of weeks is looking at this and probably feeling a little bit nervous, but they should know that both sides are still at the table, so there is hope. CJ, thanks so much. CJ Liu reporting live from the airport. It's 5:42, 32 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Well, wait times for 911 callers in the city down significantly. We'll get you all the numbers.
Welcome back. A speed camera has been reinstalled on Parkside Drive. This after it was vandalized for the 6th time in less than a year.
You move quickly, that speed camera would get you a ticket. Police also trying to determine if there's a connection to other cameras that have been targeted.
Yeah, and for more on this, we're joined live by CP24's Andrew Brennan with a closer look at this. We were just caught chatting on camera. Lots of drivers being caught on the roadways too, Andrew.
I was going to say you guys had clearly sped away for, a quick 2 minutes, get a coffee, water. We don't have to, I don't think bathroom breaks. We don't have enough time for those in the ad breaks. But moral of the story is we try our best. We all try our best. And as we continue talking about us trying our best, the city is trying its best to figure out who's been cutting down or in some case hammering down, and in other cases graffitiing over all of these speed cameras. So the last incident was just over a month ago, and today finally a camera has been reinstalled on Parkside Drive north of Lakeshore. Now, we talk a lot about this particular camera for several reasons. One, there's people in the area that are either very for or very against it, and they're very vocal with us. Two, there happens to be a lot of people that get ticketed here. This one camera, or at least this one location over the series of 6 cameras in several years, has made the city over $7 million from speed infractions. And other cameras are certainly more popular in the most recent months because this camera has been out of commission so much, but it is historically the most widely ticketing camera in the city. So I did mention some of the ways that this particular speed camera location has been vandalized. There's been one incident where an axe or something like it was used, and they found the camera thrown into Grenadier Pond. In another case, a baseball bat or something of the like. And the last time, they actually had a second camera set up to watch the first camera and see if they could catch a perpetrator. Unclear if anyone was seen on that camera, but there's still been, at last check, no one arrested, according to police.
These incidents are happening across the city, and we have 16 different uniformed police divisions, and one division has kind of taken on that lead to see if they can find any type of link between any of the incidents. So that we are investigating thoroughly, of course. We know that speed is and the death that comes with that is 100% preventable. So I think it's our citizens and our city's responsibility to understand that this is a preventable death. And these are preventable accidents, and to respect that, and that the people who are causing that damage will be held to account.
Question is, what will they be held for ultimately if and upon being arrested? Now, this would be a charge of mischief over $5,000, Lena and Phil. And ultimately, if it's seen that there's more than one perpetrator or more than several different incidents here, and each one has its own perpetrator, that is a lot of time under the criminal code that people would have to be behind bars for getting upset at a camera. Back to you.
All right, Andrew, thanks so much for this, a story that keeps on giving. Well, new numbers from the city show wait times for 911 callers are down significantly.
Officials say last month the average 911 wait time was 28 seconds. That is down from 90 seconds a year ago. The goal is to get that number down to 15 seconds. In order to make that happen, the city is adding more 911 operators. 60 have been hired so far this year. Mayor Olivia Chow says there'll be another 30 by the end of the year. The city is also looking at new technology to help reduce wait times even more.
Last year, 27% of the 911 calls were pocket dials and accidental. So there's now an automatic text back feature to drop calls to help our call center operators to keep focus on the emergency, not these pocket dials, because it takes them time to call back. And that person may not call back or not answer. It's time wasted.
We are currently looking at a lot more interoperability between the Toronto Police, the Toronto Paramedic Services, and Toronto Fire. Currently, all 3 services operate on different platforms. So we need to have a technological solution so that we can talk to each other a lot more easily, right? So the ideal situation is a call comes in to us and it kind of goes across all 3 partners, or a call comes in for fire and it goes across all 3 partners. Paramedics, same thing. Right now, we're relying on phone calls to get all that information back and forth.
And Toronto police say their priority response time is 13 minutes, a 25% improvement from a year ago. The city has also approved hiring 720 new police officers.
It is a 7-4 5:49 right now. Sorry, skipping ahead. You're watching.
Feels
Live
ready
at
to go
5.
home.
I don't want to go home yet. I love this place.
Well, coming up, reaction after Israel claims responsibility for an airstrike that killed 2 journalists in Gaza. Stay with us.
Welcome back. For the first time since the Israel-Hamas war broke out 22 months ago, Israel has swiftly claimed responsibility after a journalist's death in Gaza.
2 Al Jazeera journalists were killed in an airstrike outside a Gaza City hospital. 4 other journalists were also killed. Israel's military claims one of the Al Jazeera journalists was a Hamas leader. That allegation was dismissed by the network, and the United Nations Secretary General has now condemned the killing of the journalists. A spokesperson addressed the situation today.
These latest killings highlight the extreme risks that journalists continue to face when covering this ongoing conflict. The Secretary General calls for an independent and impartial investigation into these latest killings. At least 242 journalists have been killed in Gaza since the war began. Journalists and media workers must be respected, they must be protected, and they must be allowed to carry out their work freely, free from fear and free from harassment.
In the meantime, Australia's Prime Minister has announced that his country will recognize a Palestinian state. The recognition will be formalized at the UN General Assembly in September. Conditions include no role for Hamas in a Palestinian government and the demilitarization of Gaza. Australia's Prime Minister made the decision amid internal pressure and criticism over the humanitarian situation there. Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu criticizing the move.
Ukraine and its European backers are seeking talks with U.S. President Donald Trump in an effort to protect their security interests ahead of his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin later this week.
Trump and Putin will meet in Alaska on Friday. In advance of the talks, NATO's chief and several European leaders agreed to virtual meetings on Wednesday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has not been invited to the summit and says he's instead coordinating a possible meeting with his allies. Trump had this to say about the upcoming meeting at the White House.
I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first, and then I'll call them after. And I may say, lots of luck, keep fighting, or I may say we can make a deal.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke with President Zelensky today. The PM's office says in part that both agreed that no decisions about Ukraine's future and security can be made without Ukraine at the table.
It is 5:55. It feels almost like 40 with humidity. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, back to school shopping is going to be a little different this year due to the trade war with the U.S. We'll take a look at how the tariffs are impacting school supplies. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, Phil, I know you're a parent, so I should tell you, you may experience sticker shock as you and your family begin back to school shopping, and you can blame American tariffs.
Yeah, and also Canadian business, as you're going to find out. Retail experts say the tariffs will have a major impact on items that come through the U.S., especially on electronics and clothes. My kid's in senior kindergarten. He doesn't need a calculator.
Aw, Reese.
He has one anyways. One retail analyst even expects some brands in Canada to raise their prices to match an increase in the U.S., known as harmonizing prices, leaving customers in both countries paying more. Thanks.
Any products that are coming through the U.S. via, Southeast Asia or other countries into Canada are going to see some of that price increase, that inflation from the tariffs. In addition, some of the big brands are harmonizing their pricing. They can't have Canada's pricing be a lot cheaper than the U.S. because of the tariffs, or Americans will flock to Canada. So there's a lot of different things happening right now from a pricing perspective in the market.
And Winder recommends shopping around to check deals and sales in advance and thrifting items online if possible. When are you guys going shopping?
Never. We have a lot of nieces and nephews. Hand-me-downs. That's what it's all about. Free. It is 5:59, almost 40. You're watching Charles Breaking News, CP24.
That's the way to do it. Another hot night in the city. Thanks so much for watching. CTV News at 6 is coming up next.